Going to do a quick stream real quick with the release of Node-RED version 4. Figured we'd walk through the release notes and take a look at it. It's pretty cool. So, start this up in FlowFuse and create a new application and open the editor. And we're going to step through these new releases. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat, and we'll go from here. So, where's that real quick? Chat. Yeah, make sure if anybody has anything in chat, we see them come up. But yeah, so welcome to Node-RED version 4, released today. I was actually in the middle of my last stream when I saw this pop up, and I was like, I wish I would have let everybody know. But we're here now. We're going to have some fun and see what this new features are about. But we'll jump in here and say welcome to Node-RED 4. So the newest thing that I'm seeing, which we saw coming, which was multiplayer mode. This allows you to kind of see how, if you have multiple people editing a Node-RED flow, you can see where they are working and what activity. So these are the steps to kind of making cohesive editing simultaneously. Really cool feature that's going to be, I think, beneficial to a lot of people, especially if you're working in environments where multiple people simultaneously, like I said, simultaneously working. So multiplayer mode. Better background deploy handling. So the flows on the server have been updated, review changes. So I guess if you deploy and somebody else deploys in a different system, you're going to be able to see what those changes are. And that's going to be helpful. Improve flow diffs. When viewing changes made to a flow, Node-RED now distinguishes between nodes that have had configuration changes and those that have been moved. When faced with a long list of changes to look at, this makes it much easier to focus on more significant items. So, improve flow when viewing changes. So let's say, for example, two people working on things simultaneously, they deploy. You can now do the differentiation between the two updates, making it a lot easier, kind of going into that multiplayer mode. Better configuration of Node UX. So the configuration node selection UI has a smaller box. So configuration node selection US. So it looks like maybe when you select a server or so forth, it's kind of cleaned things up there. Timestamp formatting. So this will be nice when you have like an inject node. Instead of just saying timestamp, we can now dictate what type of format that timestamp is. Different systems use different structures, and that's important when you think about if you're leveraging epoch time versus like a different time state format. Very much a pain if you have not worked with that in the past. And that's not even just necessarily related to Node-RED. That's just a pain in the past. If you ever worked with databases, making sure you get things in the right format is always key. Autocomplete of flow, global, and environment types. It's something that's going to make things in life easier. We'll test this out as far as in environment variables. I always want to add environmental variables to the conversation. Next thing we have is config node customization and subflows. Subflows can now be customized to allow each instance to use different config nodes of type selected. Config node customization. I guess that has to do with environment variables, preview, config node. For example, each instance of a subflow that connects to a MQTT broker does some post-processing of the messages. Okay, so subflows configuration that can be a little bit different. We'll see if we can check that out. We'll go through that. And remembering palette state. Now remembers what category you've been hidden between reloads, as well as any filter you have applied. Palette now remembers what categories you have hidden. Okay. Plugin shows shown in Palette Manager. The Palette Manager now shows any plug-in modules you have installed, such as Node-RED Debugger. Previously, you would have to show shown in the plugins and include nodes for the palette. So I guess there's like plugins, and now you can see those individually. And node updates. The core nodes have recently received a lot of minor fixes, documentation updates, and small enhancements. Check the full channel log to help in the help sidebar for full list. And yeah, all right. So help, and I believe it's probably here. Channel changelog. I've never seen this. Awesome. So now I can go in here and see all the different. And I bet you if this take two. Yeah, I was wondering if I could bring that back up. So let's go through this and let's have some fun. So first one we want to do is look at multiplayer mode. I don't know if we're going to be able to really, but you can see my name and username up there for Node Gray. And I imagine if I could get somebody in here online with me, we'd be able to see those. But we're not gonna do too much there, I don't think today. Maybe I can display that later when I have somebody working with me. But I just decided last minute, I was like, let's just do a live stream real quick. All right. So pulling that back out, let's look at the next one we want to highlight. That's going to be really probably the biggest highlight for a lot of people here, the multiplayer mode. Definitely check it out if you haven't. One of the things that I always kind of relate it to, and I think as we're moving towards, is like a kind of like a collaborative Excel file or Google Sheets type of environment where you can both simultaneously work on the same document. Next one, let's go background for deploying, review changes. We're not going to really be able to test that today. Improve flow difference, again, that's going to be all part of making sure multiplayer is moving forward, and better configuration in Node UX. So let's just kind of pull configuration Node. Let's see if we can find one real quick. Probably the HTTPN. That doesn't really have a configuration. Let's install like a SQL SQL. Recent SQLite. We'll just do that one. Relevance SQLite Node-RED SQL. I think this is the one that we'll want to take a look at. Let's see the details, and I think we can create a configuration here. And yeah, now I want to see who maintainers were. So SQLite, we'll go ahead and install that one and take a look at it. I don't think that's a configuration we can check into. And then we'll start maybe creating a subflow about doing some actions and so forth. So, but really, just having fun, seeing the new tools, open editors. We'll autocomplete. Let's see about that. Okay, so we got a SQLite. And, okay, add new. Okay, so that's some new, so let's say, for example, we'll just call this test, read, write, create. And it looks like we've cleaned up the UI here as far as like maybe that configuration. Makes it a little bit easier. Looks like, I can't remember, I feel like we just had an edit button. Instead of, you had to select, that's what it was. You had to select add new, and then you'd have to then select the edit to add new. Now you just have a button to add new instead of having to make sure you select the right drop down. A little bit better in that front. Awesome. And then we're going to let's look at back at help. And info. There we go. Help. Change log. Take tour. Let's do quick. Make sure we kind of go through these. Don't miss anything. Better UX. Yep, that's the plus sign. Timestamp formats. Let's add the timestamp formats and let's see if we can figure out autocomplete for flows. Okay, so timestamp format. We can do this in one step. So we're going to add this here. Oh, beautiful. So payload is milliseconds. So we're going to select timestamp here, and then we have these selections for drop down. Beautiful. Cool. I'm going to delete this, and we're just going to drop this into a debug node because I want to see how these look differently. So maybe we'll do epoch, and then we'll do payload dot, what's the other one we have? We have year, month, day, year. We'll just do that. And select time. And we're going to select this one, and then we're going to add one more just to visualize them all. JavaScript. Let's say payload.java. And timestamp. And JavaScript date. Perfect. Done. Deploy. Now let's see what our debug looks like. Okay, so we have your epoch, which is I think what we're used to seeing, but then we have the format. And these probably have some underpinning, like if you looked at these from a raw standpoint. Let's make sure that I selected these differently. Yeah, JavaScript date object versus this format here. That's gonna be nice. Very helpful. Very helpful. Most people are probably more familiar with this, the epoch structure, which is the time since I think it was like something 1970s or something like that, and the number of seconds. Yep, aka January 1st, 1970. The number of milliseconds since then for. And then now we have the ISO 8601. I got my face in the way. And then the JavaScript object. And that was loud. Okay. Now let's figure out, let's do the set message at payload. Let's do a change node real quick. And we'll add a drop a change node right there. And we'll do set and we'll say message at payload. Actually, we'll only do message at payload dot change, and we're going to do flow. I don't have, but it says it works with environment variables as well. So environment variable. Let's see if we got some environment variables in here that we can pull from. Settings, environment. So instance ID. Flow. So we need to environment variable. Maybe that's not tied in. Well, let's try with, let's have environment variable. We'll do flow, and we'll do memory. Ooh, that's good. Persistent. Actually, the first thing we need to do is we'll just create a flow variable called flow dot, I don't know, test, and we'll set it to the value of just an array, and then we'll delete this for now. Deploy, inject. So now when I see my variables, if I come up here to the context data flow, we'll see that variable test. And then if I come in here now, I say message dot payload to the value of flow dot test. There we go. So it shows your potential drop downs about what you have available for those context stores. So makes it a little bit easier, so you didn't have to switch back and forth and see that information. You now have a way to quickly drop down, which is that's going to be nice and convenient. Customization config nodes in the subflow. So let's create a inject node with a function node. Then we're going to drop a change node in there, and then delay that to then have a debug. And then maybe we'll do a throw. I'm trying to figure out something that has a config node, like right there. You can let that one go right there. Oh, come on. Beautiful. Then here, we'll then select test, done, timestamp comes in here. Deploy. Perfect. And now let's create this and turn this into a subflow. I forget how to make a subflow. Where's the command that I'm looking for? I can't believe I've forgotten this. To create a subflow. Perfect, subflows. I've used subflows, I've created subflows. Where is wonder if I just had to deploy it. There we go, I bet you it's up here. Flows, there we go, create subflow. Okay. I know I've done this, I was like, where's that? I felt like it was used to be there. So create subflow. Selection to subflow. There we go, subflow. Give it a name, say test. And then now come back over here. So there we go, edit properties. Now we have the ability to edit environment variables and customizing nodes, config nodes in a subflow. Nice. So here, add, call this broker. There we go. Perfect. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now I get to pick which MQTT broker, and this is for when, so it's a common use for this will be when Node-RED dashboard uses config nodes to set the location of a widget. With Node-RED today, you cannot really use dashboard nodes inside of subflows because you'll end up with multiple copies of the widget all packed into the same group because they always go into the same group. So this allows you to package dashboards based off of environment variables. Perfect, that makes sense. Okay, let's see, click done, deploy. And let's look back at the help real quick. Help. And we'll go through the change log, take a tour. Autocomplete. Okay, plugins. Plugins show the palette manager, so we'll check that out. And cool, so I think that'll be the last thing we'll go, palette manager. No, okay, so now we see the plugins, SwiftUse plugin, Force Dark, Force Light. Okay, so now we can see the plugins. That's great. Awesome. Well, cool. Just doing a quick stream. I just want to get some content out there to see if people saw the announcement and they wanted to see what these updates were. And thank you for joining. And we'll be live with our webinar next week, and looking forward to having everyone there.